Round 8 of the 2021 Formula 1 season arrives at the Circuit de Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. This race will be an intriguing one for the teams, having spent most of preseason testing here shaking down their then-new cars. Coming back gives them and the paddock a chance to see how each team has progressed up until now. Before the weekend began, however, there was even more pressing news for the world of Formula 1 to take in. Following a dispute with the track organizers regarding the fee for hosting the Grand Prix this year, the 2021 calendar has been truncated and shortened by 2 rounds, with Abu Dhabi and China pulling out of the lineup. Teams such as Ferrari and Red Bull have reacted positively to the decision, with Christian Horner suggesting F1 needs to reconsider how much it charges for the honor of hosting a race, and Arriva Bene appeared very coy in interviews regarding his team's rivals having 2 less races to make up ground in the championship. Come Friday, though, all attention moved swiftly back to the on-track action, with Haas showing signs of upgrades and Pascal Wehrlein showing signs he may finally be getting back to the form he had during his Mercedes days in 2017. Along with them, Chevrolet clearly had continued to push their power unit, with Red Bull once again looking consistent on stints. Jaguar, however, appeared to be quite the opposite. The team are hoping to keep Ferrari and Audi close in their grasp, but it appears this may only be possible if their drivers can outperform what the car is technically capable of. Paddock insiders have suggested some drastic changes may be on the horizon for the team following the disaster race they endured in Hungary and an equally miserable day in Mexico, but no one is sure what department this change may be in. And finally, Renault have come to Spain in the highest of spirits in years, with their young rookie Jack Aitken having scored a brilliant second place in Mexico. The French unit believe they can extend the gap to their main rivals and might even be able to start pressuring Mercedes if they aren't careful. Sebastian Vettel, when pressed about his team's struggles, has said that the team spirit remains good, with upgrades in the pipeline. It's time to see how the drivers will line up for today's 2021 Spanish Grand Prix, and it's a Haas at the front as Pascal Wehrlein snatches pole position by the narrowest of margins. He'll start alongside the Ferrari of Leclerc as the only 2 drivers in the 118s, and with just a few thousandths between them. Row 2 is all Audis, with Verstappen getting the better of Sainz and with a 10th.5 gap to the leaders, but just a 1,000th of a second faster than the new championship leader, Antonio Giovinazzi. Gio managed to get the better of his championship rival and Jaguar driver aarava, but was vocally disappointed about starting behind both his teammate and also Sainz, who is now second in the standings. Row 4 features the lead Red Bull of Pierre Gasly, but for once his teammate will not be starting alongside him as Stoffel Van Dorn slots into P8, just 800ths off aarava in Q3. Sebastian Vettel was happy to feature in all 3 qualifying rounds, but was disappointed to be starting just inside the top 10 and narrowly ahead of the second Red Bull of Nico Kari. And speaking of disappointed Nikos, Hülkenberg was a shocking 5/10 off his teammate, who took pole position, and he could only manage P11 at the end of Saturday's running, but did manage to go quicker than the Mercedes of Mick Schumacher. Once again, Daniel Ricciardo will start from his favorite position of P13 as best of the rest, and back on her usual form, it's Sophia Flörsch who joins him on the 7th row. Maiden podium finisher Jack Aitken is once again starting from row 8 and ahead of the monster rehab car of George Russell, and then comes the usual suspects of poor qualifiers. Ocon once again gets the better of his teammate to start from P17 ahead of the Renault of Valtteri Bottas, and Lando Norris continues to struggle with his difficult McLaren Honda, 7/10 off the best time set by his teammate, but he was at least quicker than Sergio Perez, who will start from last position for the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver Career mode, episode number 8 today for Season 7 at the Spanish Grand Prix. If you did miss the last episode at the Mexican Grand Prix, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one uploaded last week there. And there, the championship kind of got blown open quite a bit with a great performance from Carlos Sainz, and now Antonio Giovinazzi is the one that leads the way from Sainz in second place, myself in third, with Pierre Gasly in 4th now. They're quite close behind. And so that top 4 is potentially looking like the top 4 that may have a cheeky little scrap for the championship, because we're now just over halfway through the season now after the FIA have shortened the calendar by 2 races, so that's going to really ramp up the pressure cooker of this 2021 season. But as we go towards the Spanish Grand Prix then through the formation lap, tyre wear is going to be crucial around here, as well as the aerodynamic performance. There may be also some rain forecast for the end of this race, so we'll have to see. But as the entire grid lines up there, let's psych ourselves up and get ready for round number 8 of this season. As we go to the start of this Grand Prix then, with we've got a Ferrari on the left of us, an Audi ahead, and a Haas on poles. We go to 5 red lights for the Spanish Grand Prix. Lights are out and we're underway. It's a good start from me and Antonio Giovinazzi there. Signs blocking down. We just about managed to not clip the back end of the Italian in the Ferrari as we move to the left-hand side to cover off Pierre Gasly maybe, but he's gone down the inside. Van Dorn also on the inside there, so 3 wide momentarily into turn 1. At the moment, it's Pascal Wehrlein leading the way from Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, and Giovinazzi close behind right up the gearbox of this Spaniard in his home Grand Prix. But at the moment, Wehrlein cool as ever off pole position as we try and close behind with the Red Bull Chevrolet car. Pierre Gasly closely following, trying to catch up there as we go through, swing through up the hill. Then Max Verstappen trying to chase after. This is Charles Leclerc on the inside there, trying to defend from the Dutchman. The Dutchman around the outside there. He's had such poor luck this season so far, but looks like he's punchy as ever still and in keen spirits to make a move there. And he's going to be up into second place, surely. Yes, he does. And he's now going to be able to chase after the German leading the way. And Carlos Sainz looks to be very keen to also overtake the Ferrari man, Charles Leclerc. Looks like to be a little bit slow at the moment through that final corner as Antonio Giovinazzi gets away from us and we're trying to push ahead. Looks like Van Dorn's managed to actually navigate past Pierre Gasly, so the 2 Red Bulls 2x2. The same for us Jaguar cars, but not for too long now as we are in the slipstream of Giovinazzi down the inside. Meanwhile, up ahead as well for Carlos Sainz is the move, and he's up ahead of Charles Leclerc. There's a bit of a lock up there from the young man in the Ferrari, and we're going to now close up to him as he's been flustered somewhat up the hill as we go through turn 3, and we're swinging through to maybe make a move down the inside. We've got the momentum here, so we'll go for it. It's going to be close, but we make it. We open up the steering wheel to push him wide. He's been hit with a wash of dirty air, which is a classic Catalonia here, and now he's behind Antonio Giovinazzi's teammate. So classic dirty air there showing through, and that's going to be, as I said, going to be a big talking point of this entire race. The aerodynamic performance, the chassis performance of this car. A lot of the time it's always like Noah's Ark here at Catalonia, as obviously this is where we go pre-season testing in Formula 1 a lot of the time. So a lot of the time the car's performance is a bottleneck for the drivers to perform, but now we can see Van Dorn down the inside of the Ferrari of Leclerc, and there's a lock-up from Giovinazzi, so both Ferraris struggling at the moment at the Spanish Grand Prix, which is pretty crucial for everyone else, of course. Ferrari really consistent in the last few rounds, and they've got a commanding lead in the constructors, so at the moment their struggles will be probably met with positivity by most of the teams around them there. But at the moment, speaking of bottleneck, really, Wehrlein doing a fabulous job out in first. Meanwhile, Hulkenberg, his teammate, is way down the order, just at the bottom of the top 10, so stark contrast there. So clearly Wehrlein trying to outdrive the car from pole position, but now that may not be enough as Verstappen is around the outside of turn 1 using the Audi power to good effect, and around the outside he's gone, and he's up into first place of the Spanish Grand Prix. So, you know, let's not speak too soon though, because we've had so much bad luck for Verstappen before, so let's see how that pans out then as we go through the laps then. And on to the end of lap 4 then, focusing on the main straight. Van Dorn in the slipstream of Giovinazzi, DRS wide open, and Gasly the same, and he's coming through like an absolute bullet on the left hand side there. Giovinazzi been overtaken by Van Dorn, now might also get overtaken by the Frenchman round the outside. Gasly will go lock up there from Giovinazzi, and Gasly's just about made it through and round the outside of turn 3. It's a fantastic move from the Frenchman, and he's up the order, and the Ferrari has lost 2 places now, so Ferrari really struggling. Leclerc, you can see in the background there, falling even further behind. We're focusing on towards lap 6 now. Van Dorn the one chasing after us, DRS open for him, the same for Gasly in the slipstream, but proving very powerful down this main straight. We go defensive to try and squeeze Van Dorn, but he's already passed us down the inside, although he locks up on the front left. They'll open up the space to go around the outside to get the place back. It's close on the exit. We have to lift off a tad to give him the room, but ultimately we got this round the outside, and Van Dorn hit with a wash of dirty air just like Leclerc was previously up that hill, and that is proving quite treacherous for many drivers then. He has to back off and back up here Gasly in doing so as we move now focusing on the top 3. You can see there is Verstappen leading the way, Wehrlein now falling away from him in second place, and here comes Carlos Sainz to try and make it a 1-2 then for DHL Audi Sport GP in the Spanish Grand Prix, and there he goes into second place. So, you know, Audi have had a very tough time in 2021 so far, a lot of bad luck, very much a diva of a car, but from last episode with Sainz winning the Mexican Grand Prix, it looks like at the moment they may be finding their groove finally, 8 rounds into the season. But now we move on into lap 7. We've got Gasly round the outside of Van Dorn, so no pressure from our teammate now. It's maybe going to come from Gasly soon enough, with Antonio Giovinazzi now trying to do his best to still stay with this pack, and he's just about hanging on in the background there. But as we move on to lap 8, as I said, Gasly may be the one to now try and overtake us, and he is going to come through on the right-hand side there to the inside. DRS open, and that Chevrolet power is proving so good right now at the moment for the Red Bull guys. Probably the best decision they've made as a team in a few recent years to switch to Chevrolet power for this season, and it's working very well. And Gasly is past where we've got good momentum, and now once again Mage right down the inside into turn 4 like we did on Charles Leclerc. Now on Pierre Gasly, and we'll go side by side. He's going to have the inside line though, and he's made a bit of contact with us as he squeezes us towards the curbing. That forces us out wide. We have to try and straighten the car a lot faster though, and we do have good momentum through here. Good aerodynamics on the Jaguar car, so we close right up in the high-speed chicane, practically touching, or probably did touch his gearbox there, as we now climb up the hill, and we're literally nose to tail, and we're so close to go off circuit. But now can we make the move? Fade to the left, go to the right now, and we'll go around the outside. Lock up from Gasly. We're trying to feed this through, but ultimately he has the traction there. We're down to lead mixture to try and control the rear end there, and you can see Gasly even snap there on the entry to that long right-hander. So all of us very much on the limit as we now got yellow flags behind us, and so I don't know what that's for, but is there a car going to be out this Grand Prix soon enough as we go through the final corner? Then it's yellow flags out and DRS is disabled. It's a virtual safety car then, and so that allowed a few people to come into the pits then actually. So in the top left you can see we're up into P3, but we're going to box this lap then as the virtual safety car comes back in, and we're trying our best to stay on the back of Gasly there. We didn't do the best of jobs up the hill, but now with the slipstream, DRS open, we go to the left-hand side this time round. So can we make the move now on the inside? No, we cannot, as Gasly once again gets the traction there. So the Jaguar car may have the aerodynamics, but the way the Jaguar car delivers its power so abruptly on the rear end has meant we just can't get the traction in Sector 3. It's been an issue all season, really. The Jaguar is a very tough car to handle with the power delivery, and you can see the tyre wear's also not helping, and obviously that's going to be one of the biggest factors here at the Spanish Grand Prix. So we're into the pit stops then for our first pit stop of the afternoon on lap 9. We've done well to take it to 9 laps, because I initially thought maybe we were pitting around lap 7, but the pace was actually okay to go to lap 9, and probably we're going to be thanking our future selves going to be thanking our past selves right now that we're able to stretch that to lap 9, because that would maybe open us up to doing one less stop potentially, because there was maybe a chance we would have had to do one extra stop than other teams like we have done a few times before in this season. But I think now with the work we've done to take those oh god, we've got Carlos Sainz off there into turn 1. Let's pause for a second there. Carlos Sainz stranded at the exit of turn 1. What on earth has gone on there? So we're looking at a replay now. Sainz at this point's already pit for his first pit stop. Verline there in an effective net P3, and Sainz in a net P2, but into the inside of turn 1 he locks up quite badly, and looks like he's just parked it up there. Now maybe there's an issue on the car as he went off circuit, so I'm not too sure. I don't think he's out of the Grand Prix yet, but very odd stuff there for Sainz. But yeah, as I was saying, probably going to be thanking that I've gone this long on lap 9 onto the soft tyres, because this may open us up then to doing a decent 2-stop as we now come ahead of Pierre Gasly, but Van Dorn is ahead of us. So the overcut has worked a treat there for Van Dorn, and he's now ahead of not only Gasly but also myself, and he's on the medium tyres though. Gasly also on the medium, so we should be able to try and get past him, and we need to get past him, obviously. Traffic effectively for us now as he's on an alternative strategy, as there's some contact made though, and it gets very frosty between myself and Van Dorn there. A little bit of a slide and a shimmy, and now just like with Gasly, we'll try and stay as close as we can to Van Dorn, get a little bit wide into the entry there, but then we can pull it back up the hill, then get as close as we can to that gearbox as we build the momentum, open the DRS on the line, and here we go in this slipstream. Where's Van Dorn going to go? To the inside, we'll go to the outside once again. Bit of a shimmy to make that decision there, as Van Dorn chose quite late on to go down the inside there, but he committed, and that's not going to work out for him, because either way we've made the move and we're up into P7 now. Now we can chase after Sergio Perez, although we have a big slap of oversteer there. So the power delivery and the traction just not there for us. They're getting a bit too eager on the throttle on the right hander, and so Van Dorn tries to fight us back. We open up the steering wheel once again into the final corner, and we're able to keep him at bay for now. And behind you can see Gasly making some moves. We're trying to break the slipstream, which is proving quite powerful here at Catalonia. And Van Dorn on the left, Gasly on the right. It's going to be 3 wide into turn 1, and we're going to get get pinched here. It's so close, and somehow, like threading a needle, we managed to keep ahead of both those guys as Gasly now on the inside of turn 3, and Van Dorn has to lift off and give up the position, so he's down to what will be now P9 as we're chasing after finally Sergio Perez, the man I was about to say we're going to chase after we initially made the move on Van Dorn there. The BMW Williams car going well at the moment on medium tyres, although you can clearly see the difference in downforce levels, so we have to lift off as I almost hit him up the hill into turn 3, into turn 4, the end of sector 1, just coolly as he done it down the inside there, a little bit of oversteer, and you can see still having to manage the car, and the Jaguar car is a bit of a handful at the moment around Catalonia, but we're managing it, so far so good. And so we're up into what will be P6 now. Obviously, maybe a few more positions to be gained as other people make their pit stops. Meanwhile, though, looking a little bit further back now, the bottom end of the top 10 there, fight between Sebastian Vettel and Antonio Giovinazzi, two former teammates from Ferrari, of course, before Vettel left the Scuderia for the Monster Mercedes racing team, and he's unable to overtake Giovinazzi so far. And behind lurking is the other German of Nico Hülkenberg, who I mentioned really hasn't been performing too well around Spain compared to his teammate in lofty heights in the top 3, whereas he's outside the points at the moment, Nico Hülkenberg is. So I don't know, maybe just not getting to grips with the car, just underperforming, I'm not too sure, but at the moment he's only fighting to try and get into the top 10. Meanwhile, in the top 10 is Vettel. He's up into P9 now, in fact, ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, and Hülkenberg's down the inside. It's a big lock up there from the 5-time world champion into turn 1, and Hülkenberg nearly managed to overtake him for a double overtake, which would have been absolutely awesome to see, but no, it's Vettel up into P9 and Hülkenberg now into P10. Meanwhile, further up the road now as we move on to lap 15, Nico Kari going for a very easy and simple move on Van Dorn with DRS wide open, and Hülkenberg may try the same thing in the background. You can see there he's gone on the inside of Vettel, and Vettel going the long way around, no lock up this time, and looks like he may just have squeezed out Nico Hülkenberg, but no, Hülkenberg somehow tries to wiggle his way past into turn 3, but has to ultimately tuck in back behind, and Giovinazzi is staying with them for now. So this 3 nose to tail for the moment, but as we move on to the very next lap then, lap 16, and now looks like Hülkenberg now has really the big momentum, and he's cleanly passed before the brake zone there, and he's finally up the order and past Sebastian Vettel, and so Hülkenberg now can maybe try and use that clean air to make up some time in this race. We move on to lap 17 now, Charles Leclerc into the pit lane. It's going to be Verstappen that continues on. I think that must mean Verline's also coming on the same lap as Leclerc. I think as we look at the top left there, Leclerc strapping on a set of hard tyres, same for Verline there, so yes, that's Verstappen now just staying out further ahead. Obviously he was on mediums, whereas Leclerc and I think Verline as well were on soft tyres, the same with me, but we're going to continue on a few more laps there to stretch this even further to lap 20 now. With 13 laps to go, we'll now strap on this set of medium tyres. They didn't want to opt for the hard tyres because looking at practice, the hard tyres seem to be the worst tyre of the weekend there, so I'm surprised really that Leclerc and Verline have opted for that, but obviously they didn't want to go any longer on their set of soft tyres. But we're going to strap on the middle compound, the white wall tyre, and go to the end of this race. But you can see, I don't know, subtly it is getting a little bit darker there. There definitely is some forecast for some rain potentially as we now come out behind Jack Aitken, that is just went through on the left hand side of your shot there, and he's out of sync with this Grand Prix somewhat on the medium tyres, going a little bit longer from the beginning of the Grand Prix. As we now move through the laps then quite swiftly onto lap 22, it's finally Pierre Gasly to come in from what was effectively the race lead. Verline now retakes the lead of this Grand Prix. He's actually jumped Max Verstappen. Verstappen is there in P2 now on soft tyres, and so Verline's undercut strategy's worked out a treat for him. Meanwhile in P3 it'll be Charles Leclerc, and Gasly I think may just come out behind us. We'll see as we come across the line now onto the next lap. Where is Gasly there? I think he's ahead. Yes, he is just ahead a few car lengths, and so he's into P4 and we're up into P5 once again in a bit of a Red Bull sandwich now, with Kari a few paces back in P6 and Van Dorn I think behind him in what would be P7. So now can we try and overtake our former teammate towards the end of this Grand Prix with 10 laps to go at the Spanish Grand Prix. We move a little bit further back now to focus back on Nico Hülkenberg and this fight again with Sebastian Vettel. So the two Germans getting very familiar with each other in the Spanish Grand Prix. As now Hülkenberg once again tries a DRS overtake. Vettel himself has DRS though because of that blue flagged McLaren, and so Hülkenberg though, that's no use for him. That's no use for Vettel, as Hülkenberg is clearly past there on the hard tyres, and he's up the order as we move on to the next lap, lap 24, and now we're focusing back on the leaders Grand Prix, and Verstappen pushing hard now in his Audi. He pulls over to the right hand side of the track, DRS wide open there. That's going to be the move for the lead of the Grand Prix, cleanly past Pascal Wehrlein there, absolutely defenceless into turn 1, and so Verstappen leads the way, and so only 8 laps to go for the Dutchman. So far it's looking very good for the man with no luck so far in 2021 as we move through the last chicane, focusing back on our POV. We're being chased down by Nico Kari as the track gets somewhat damp as the rain is starting to come down there. So that rain I mentioned a few times is definitely coming. I don't know if it's going to be enough for Inters at the end of this race. We'll see. It definitely is getting damper by the minute, and we're having to go defensive to Kari, who's got some great speed. That Chevrolet engine really has turned into a really decent package there for the Red Bull team, especially so far this season. But obviously you've got to say this race has been working well for Wehrlein as well. As we move at the end of lap 27, you can see big lockup into sector 3, and the spray is coming off these tyres. You can see on the left hand side especially, just coming off the tyre at the bottom there of the chassis where the shadow of the tyre hits the ground. So you can see it's definitely time to come in, and I've set it to box in this lap and go on to intermediate tyres. And at the moment, it looks like Gasly, looks like the entire top four's continued on there. And we're going to come in, and Kari actually continues on as well. So very surprising. They think they've got some way to go still in this Grand Prix. I definitely think it's time to strap on these green wall tyres. And I think soon enough, most of the grid will think of that. So I don't know, maybe we can gain some time here on Gasly. Maybe a late move, potentially. We gain enough time on this undercar, because it is rapidly getting wetter and wetter by the minute. So I would like to think we're going to gain some time here on the outlap there, as Van Dorn also comes in for nearly a double stack there. The pit crew will be a little bit delayed to service Van Dorn, so that's a little bit unfortunate as we come out now. DRS is disabled, so that's pretty much usually the crossover period for 100% definitely time for the wet tyres there. And so as we move into lap 30, Gasly nowhere to be seen actually. He's quite some way up the road. A car that is quite close to us up the road though is Carlos Sainz, and he's still on dry tyres. So Carlos Sainz, after going some way down the order, obviously, after that weird turn 1 lockup there, the strangest strategy has meant he's still on soft tyres for some reason. And he's actually held up Mick Schumacher here. So on lap 30, 3 laps to go, Hulkenberg around the outside then to make a pass on the second Monster Mercedes racing car of the day. Hulkenberg feeding it through. It's going to be a fantastic move. He makes this work. I think they're still side by side just about as they peek over the crest there. And Schumacher is doing some wonderful work to still stay ahead there, dancing the car around the outside of Hulkenberg, just like his dad used to in the rain. And Hulkenberg is close there, and he's made it over the curbing though. He's lost some traction, and so they're still neck and neck. I think that'll be through the final corner. Yes, they are as they peer through. Fantastic battle between the two Germans, and so Hulkenberg though finally pulls ahead with the Chevrolet power being better than the Mercedes. And in the background there, Giovinazzi trying his best to close up on Vettel for the last points-paying position as Schumacher's round the outside. He's drifted it through and tried to hang around the outside. Ultimately not going to be. But what a bit of defensive driving then, and just some fighting between those two. Meanwhile now back at the front, this is actually for P3 in the Grand Prix. Gasly down the inside to lock up there from Leclerc, and that's quite crucial. It's crucial for the championship especially, as now Gasly is into P3. He'll get 15 points, not 12, and Leclerc is down to P4. So that's going to be really big for Gasly and Red Bull's championship hopes here in round 8. As we now come across the line for the last lap of the Grand Prix, and Nico Kari is still trying to catch us. Van Dorn as well. We go defensive, go back to the racing line though, and ultimately keep ahead of the young Finn as now we move back to the top end here, and it's going to be the victory for Max Verstappen. It's been so long since he's been in the top step of the podium. It's been a long season for him so far with so much bad luck, but he's going to pull through for the win of the Spanish Grand Prix, his 7th win of his career in the MyDriver universe. The 2019 World Drivers' Champion is finally a race winner in 2021, with Pascal Wehrlein taking a brilliant P2 there in the Haas Chevrolet car. Really good stuff there. Ultimately lost it off pole position, but I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that. Haas still very much still trying to be on the up there. They're not quite there yet, but they're making great progress. And now back to our POV across the line. That'll be for us into P5. Decent work there, I think. We just didn't have the pace to try and match the Red Bull Chevrolet cars. Ultimately there, you can see Gasly definitely had some better pace, but P5 is still brilliant for us because it will mean Pierre Gasly is the one to take the lead of the Drivers' World Championship now with 89 points. 3 points back now is me, back up into P2 at least, with Giovinazzi and Sainz shuffling down to P3 and P4. So how do you like that? Gasly and myself once again, just like back in 2018, back on 1-2 in the championship, although different circumstances now. Myself and Jaguar, him still with Red Bull though, loyal as ever to the team that gave him the chance to get into Formula 1 when he started his career here in MyDriver. And Verstappen then with that win shoots himself up into P7 now, level on points with Stoffel Van Dorn. Pascal Wehrlein doing well to try and chase after and keep up with Charles Leclerc in P6 and Leclerc in P5. They're just behind Sainz by 1 point now. So this top 4 battle is almost becoming a top 5 there, with Leclerc kind of forcing his way through. And you would say if Verline and Verstappen keep up the pace now, they showed at the Spanish Grand Prix, they can make it a 7-way scrap. That would be quite something to witness here in MyDriver. I would say that's something that we've not seen quite yet with 7 seasons gone. And the constructors then, Ferrari's still leading the way, but now Red Bull Chevrolet now are level on points with Jaguar in P2 there, and they move ahead, of course, with Gasly scoring better here. Audi solidifying their P4 here and trying their best to close up back to that top 3 fight, and Haas trying to stretch their legs to pull back. Obviously, they want to try and pull back on their main competitors, their main comparison, which is Red Bull Chevrolet with the same power unit, and so the only thing to compare their chassis, and so Haas trying their best, and I think they're slowly gaining momentum here, but Monster Mercedes in no man's land in P6 then, and with the bottom 4 not scoring points there this race, but ultimately the Jaguar car just not there, having to really fight and pull it up the order, and especially towards the end of that Grand Prix, lost a lot of pace to the Red Bull guys especially, and with Audi coming back into the fray, it's not looking like a great situation for Jaguar. Although we did obviously finish the race, both cars in the points, it's still not great enough from the reigning Constructors World Champions, so we'll have to see how the coming weeks pan out there, and the same can be said for the likes of Ferrari, Audi, and Haas potentially, as all those 3 teams try to make some movements and chase. Ferrari trying to stay ahead in the championship, Audi trying to make a late resurgence now with 2 wins on the trot now with Sainz and the Mexican Grand Prix, now Verstappen there, and as we've already mentioned, Haas trying their best to close up to Red Bull and try and close that chassis performance gap. It's all bubbling away, as I've said many times before, and it's just getting more and more pressurized. Now with 2 less rounds in the championship, it's starting to get to crunch time almost already in this season. So guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, smash that like button. Can we try and aim for 2,000 likes, guys? I know it's going to be quite an ask, but if we can try that, that'd be absolutely amazing. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly F1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.